Hey guys, hope you're well. Today we're going to be doing a video, a little tutorial on how to properly create a semi-optimal PvP build in Elden Ring. We're going to be going over some of the main steps and how you, like the kind of the process behind it and how you would go about making your own. So if you apply these steps and tips, you should be on your way to make a pretty good build. So let's just get into it, right? So, kind of, what is the first step, really? So, it does depend, really. It depends on what you want to do with your build. Um, like, would you like to do like duels or invasions? Because I know the builds can vary depending on what you want to do. And what kind of build do you want? Do you know, like, would you rather have like a melee build? So like kind of like a heavier melee weapon build, or would you rather have more of a lighter weight, faster, quicker melee build? You know, there's pros and cons of both. Um, that's for you to decide. And quite honestly, what you find more fun. And there's also like the kind of caster archetype. It's usually intelligence or faith builds, 90% of the time. And these builds tend to stay at range. You tend to invest more stats, however. They're quite stat heavy. So you tend to be quite brittle. Um, but you stay at range and you do really big damage at range. So it just depends what you want. Or you can have like a hybrid. It's one of my favorites where you have like a balance between caster and melee. So yeah, let's just get right into the video. Just a quick disclaimer. I am not a pro at this game, right? I need everyone to understand that I do this for fun. I am not some crazy cracked PvP god that like can just win every duel. I am not even really that good at PvP. I just enjoy the technical build side of it. Alright, so I'm not a pro. This is not a guide on how to make the most optimal, perfect, super epic PvP build because I'm I'm just not that good, right? I'm not anywhere near the level of Chase or Steel or Lost or anyone on that level. So yeah, if you're looking for a super high level PvP build guide, this probably won't be the guide for you. But this is more for beginners who are starting to maybe get into the PvP scene a little bit and want to get an idea on how to start. Okay, so thought I'd just let you guys know I'm not I'm not a pro. I can assure you that. Generally, towards making a PvP build, the next kind of step is to figure out what kind of weapons you like. So, if, for example, you're going to do a dexterity build, you might prefer a quicker weapon like for example a slender sword or a rapier or a milady or something like that. I like greatsword even. There's lots of options, and uh, dexterity does have access to some bigger weapons like the Bloodhound's Fang. Most notably the Zweihander is a very good dexterity weapon. But you just got to find what you like, test out the move sets. You know, you might really like the look of a weapon, but really don't like the moveset. So you just gotta see what you like, whether you think you're gonna enjoy using it a lot or not, whether you'd rather have a different weapon if it's more enjoyable for you. So it's a very key factor. Just really mess about with the movesets and just see whether you like it or not. That's a very big part of the process. So it's a lot of just trial and error trying to find the weapons you like. In this video, as an example, we're just going to do a Zweihander, but it will be a dexterity build. So it's difficult because it's heavy, but I really like the moveset of the Zweihander. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's really solid. It comes with lots of hyper armor and big damage, so you just gotta find the weapon you like first, obviously. So find a weapon you like, then just keep trying till you figure it out. Maybe there's more than one. Maybe you want a Y-hander with an offhand dagger. I've seen a lot of people do that. You know, it's very strong. But yeah, just find what you like. It does not have to be meta. Just an FYI. A lot of people, I noticed, don't use weapons they like because they're not good. Every weapon in this game is good. You've just got to learn how to use it. Some, you've got to be better than with some other weapons, admittedly. There's always going to be some kind of ease of use, quality of life that one weapon has over another. For example, straight swords, just like sword and shields, are significantly harder to use than something like a colossal sword, because a colossal sword can kind of mask up mistakes with hyper armor. But you just got to find a weapon you like, whether you enjoy the heavier, slower playstyle or the faster, quicker playstyle. A lot of people like these. I've seen a lot of people like these Smith grip daggers. So yeah, just when you find a weapon you like, the first goal is, for example, these Y-hander. So where is it? So I'm on my mule right now, so it's going to be way higher than AR. See, I'm at 800 with no buffs. But basically, when you find your weapon, figure out what you want to do. So in this video, for an example, I will be doing dexterity. Let's go into our set of grace here. And just have a look at the ashes of war we can put on this. Find an ash of war you like and just test them out. Have a look. Have a feel of what you like. I've seen lots of people use this. That's really fun to use. This is really fun to use. Or you could go for something a bit more miscellaneous, like Sacred Blade or Poisonous Mist, or whatever you feel like doing. Just whether you feel like you want to inflict a status effect or have a buff, or if you would rather have like an ash wall that does damage, like Lightning Strike or Flame Skewer or Flame Spear or something like that. Or you'd rather have like a movement one. Quick Step is notorious for being very strong. Mainly because of its backstab potential. So if you want to be quite flashy, Quick Step is a good option because everyone loves it. So it's a really good option. Or Blink Bolt, seen lots of people run that. That's really good. But yeah, it's just find what you enjoy. In this example, I'll be using Lightning Slash because I find it really enjoyable. I think it's good fun. You can hit some pretty solid numbers with it, to say the least. And then there's another step, right? This is the last step before choosing a weapon and all of that stuff, like the Asher Wars and stuff. It's really important you pick the right affinity for what you want. So let's say for a Faith build, you want to buff it with Electrify Armament. It's not going to be worth running Lightning because you won't be able to buff your weapon anymore. Because you can't put Lightning Armament on a Lightning infused weapon. So it's just like little things like that. You've just got to find out. So, for example, if you're doing a Dexterity build, right? You have like two main options really. You have Keen or Lightning, and it depends whether you want to buff your weapon or not. So Lightning is really good if you don't want to bother with all the grease or the faith buffs or anything like that, whereas Keen is better if you are willing to use that kind of thing. And I know this is a big topic, but it's really important you look at the damage types and how resistances work, okay? Because there's some downsides, right? So you look at Keen and it looks like 700. That looks crazy good, and it is. And you look at Lightning and it is like so much more damage, right? And it sounds better at first, but just remember, with any element, even fire, lightning, holy, magic, cold, all of them infusions, they all have to go through 2 different types of damage resistance. What that means is that they lightning, like when you hit them, let's say it's lightning infused, you hit them, whatever their physical damage negation is, will take off of your physical damage. So you'll do less depending on how much physical damage negation they have. And your lightning works like that as well. So if you find someone who's got really good armor on, and they're really lightning resistant and really physical resistant, lightning will do worse damage than keen. So just remember that, alright? But for this example, I'll do lightning, because it's still really good. But yeah, just remember that. It's a really important step. See, a lot of people mess it up, and it can, it can really mess you up. So you just got to be careful. Pick carefully, and you can always swap. Like if you're doing invasions and you find that your weapon isn't doing as much damage as you would like, you can always swap out and like try something else. Don't be afraid to swap it up a little bit. That's all I'll say. Right. Once you've kind of decided on what weapon you might go for, no matter what weapon it may be, it's your choice. Like I said, we're just going to be like kind of going onto our armor now, and you can just like, we need to figure out what we want. So just go on here and just click on stuff, and click on things you like the look of. See what you want to rock and see whether you like the look of it. There's lots of options, and you can do whatever you want, whatever you think looks good, or whatever you think is good. Just pick whatever armor you feel comfortable wearing, or whatever armor you'd like to wear. Or again, if you're doing a cosplay type build, which I know a lot of people do, you can try and craft your armor to make it look somewhat like what you're trying to cosplay. So yeah, just have a fiddle around, see what you like, see what you don't, and just make a decision. Just make an educated decision on what you'd like. So there's a couple things with armor, right? So unless there's 2 kind of main options you could do. You can either go the heavier, more, I guess you could say, generic build, where you have heavier armor, better damage negation and such. Or you could run, but you can't really it's quite hard to fit it all into one build, if that makes sense. Like, you need to level endurance and that, so it's a trade-off, right? Less damage for better armor. Or you can, I've seen this quite a bit actually, you can purposefully pick light armor, so you can light roll, right? And in case you don't know, light rolling gives you faster sprint speed. I think it might give you better stamina recovery. It certainly makes your dodge rolls better and gives you more dodge roll iframes, right? But at the same time, you're wearing light armor, so if you do get hit, you're gonna get hit, alright? So, be careful with what you pick. Like, for example, the braided cord robe, right? 6.3 base physical damage negation. Whereas if you were to wear something slightly heavier, like, for example, the scale chestplate, a very solid pick that lots of people like, that has 16, right? So that is quite a bit over double, nearly triple on just one piece of armor, right? So there's lots that comes into play. And let's say you do decide to pick the heavier armor route, so you can tank a bit more. You don't feel like being as squishy. Maybe you're not comfortable taking as much damage as you do with a light roll. I always recommend if you're doing a heavier build, kind of just lean into it. I don't really like sitting in the middle because it's very awkward, right? Because you're not light rolling, but you're not getting the max amount of damage negation you have, if that makes sense. It feels like a bit of a waste to me. But again, it's your build. If you'd rather just look stylish, go by all means go ahead. But for this guide, I'm going to be trying to make it semi-optimal, right? So you can like go out there and have, I guess in quotations, an optimal PvP build. So you can go out there and win some like seriously tough matches against solid players, right? So I don't suggest sitting in the middle. I always suggest weighing slightly heavier, even like I'd say like kind of 10 weight and up, kind of, if you can, for chest plates and like kind of wear the corresponding sets for like all this. There is a couple of things I want to mention, right? So if you're going for that light load build, this does not apply to you, alright? You can either skip past this bit or just watch it just in case. This isn't really including you because it's not going to be feasible with a weapon and light load. But let's say for whatever reason you are going for that heavier build. Notice how the poise varies from armor to armor, right? Poise is very important in PvP. It's one of the most important aspects if you don't want to get completely rolled, right? So it's so quality of life, and it's not as big as it doesn't feel as impactful as like a super OP weapon, but it really does make a difference, right? Because so I don't have it on this character, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would really like to show you, but I can't. But there's this curved sword. If you're unaware, it's called the Shamshir, right? Lots of solid players use it to wreck low poise setups because it's got a really fast, what's called backswing, so it can attack really fast, basically. So it's really important that you meet the poise threshold so you can tank through that weapon so you don't get completely rolled. So the minimum poise I always recommend is 88, right? If you can hit 88, that is such an amazing number to hit, okay? Because it's it helps against a lot of things, not just the Shamshir. You can tank hits from offhand rapiers and offhand daggers and such. So I think it's really important to that you go for that threshold, right? So for a heavier build, I like to try and keep it stylish if I can. For this video, I've already got armor planned out. So I'm going to be running the Knight's Cavalry armor. Oh, and feel free to steal this if you want to use it. The Solitude gauntlets. There they are. The Solitude greaves. All the way down here. And the Black Knight helmet. See if I can find it around here somewhere. There it is. So that puts us at 71, and you notice that isn't a threshold, right? But I always kind of recommend running the Bullgoat talisman because one, it gives you more fashion options, right? You can wear lighter armor and still hit that poise threshold, but it also means that hitting that poise is easier if you're running lower equip load or anything like that actually is affected by your stats, if you will. I know I'm like blabbering, but I find this like kind of important. So notice how like when you're in this menu, you can see like your armament power, all of that. You see that physical, right? Defense / damage negation, physical, 30.695. I can really advise trying to get somewhere near 30. So like, if you have like 29.8, that's fine. But always try and hit that 30 mark if you can, because I'd say that's a good baseline, right? 30 points of damage physical damage negation. I'd say that's a solid baseline to start from, and it's a really good way to help you survive more, right? Because again, if you're a light load, this doesn't apply to you because you can't hit 30 without external buffs with light armor. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. But yeah, feel free to steal this, by the way. If you like the look of it, I'm not going to get upset if you decide to steal it. But yeah, I always recommend that. And notice with the Bullgoat Talisman, it gives you 33% extra poise. And in total, that brings us from 71 to 95, right? 71, 95. That brings us above the 88 threshold. Another threshold is, I believe, 111, which is for two-handed twin blades, right? If for whatever reason you want to go over that threshold and you decide that you want to poise through twin blades, that is always an option. However, there are definitely a lot less fashion choices when it comes to that kind of thing. So yeah, I thought I'd just let you know, keep that in mind, right? But yeah, let's move on to talismans next. So once you've decided what armor you're gonna wear, just again for the showcase, we're just gonna rock this. We're gonna move on to our talismans now. So I think that it takes a bit of practice with the talismans, right? A bit of a trial and error, if you will, and it has a bit of a knack to it, right? You've got to kind of have a little bit of, I guess, knowledge just from trying stuff out and seeing, like what works and what doesn't, what you like, what you don't like. But a good way, like if you're really, really new, is just always just look at your weapon, see what kind of damage it does. So here we have a lightning Swirehander. It's a colossal sword. It does standard and pierce damage, and it also does half lightning damage. So already from what I gather, it does pierce damage, and usually, if it does pierce damage, the spear talisman is a very solid pick for this, right? And the description is super confusing, and I'm going to try and explain it as best I can in case you don't understand. Whenever you attack in this game, like whenever you attack, whenever your opponent attacks, whenever, like, notice how it was down, like it's really kind of hard to see, but whenever you attack in this game, your pierce resistance goes down by, like, I think 30% or something like that, roughly. Don't quote me on that because it's just a rough guess, but I know it goes down by a pretty significant amount, right? So your pierce resistance goes down, which means pierced, like, attacks. If, for example, on this right hand, it would be your standing R2, or your rolling R1, or your crouching R1. They all do pierce damage, which means if you hit someone when they're, like, mid-move and their pierce resistance is lowered, and you hit them with that thrust attack, it will do more damage, right? And that's called a counter attack. And this talisman boosts that, essentially. Yeah, so sorry if that it's quite confusing. If you're new, it can be quite tricky to understand. So no stress. But hopefully I made it as easy to understand as possible. Anyway, moving on, right? What kind of weapon are we using? We're using a colossal sword, so stamina is obviously going to be a big one. Usually there's like three options, two main options when it comes to stamina, right? So you either have more stamina. So you see how my stamina goes from 170 to 195. So that is a 25 stamina point difference, which is like I don't know how much that is in percent, but it's a very solid amount, right? So there's more stamina, or usually the better option, stamina recovery speed, right? So most of the time this is better because you don't often go wiping out all your stamina in one go. If you do, you can still use this to great effect, especially the two-headed one because it's very fast stamina recovery. So yeah, one of these two is fine. Again, I've already got talismans planned out for this video. I will be kind of taking the in-betweeny route, which I'll discuss, which is this, right? Which is the Urge's Favour +2. And this talisman is very solid, right? I don't see a lot of people use it that often, which kind of surprises me, really. But if you've ever played like Dark Souls 3, I'm sure some of you have. If not, there's a ring called the Ring of Favor, which is basically this. And it was good in that game, and it's really good in this game. If you don't really know what to use as like a fourth talisman slot, this is really solid, because you can't go wrong with it. Bonus equip load, it can help you meet your weight threshold for armor. Quick note on that actually. I mean never, and I mean never, heavy load. Always med or light load. Heavy load gets you killed 99.99% of the time in dangerous situations because your rolls suck. It's so easy to roll catch you. So always med load, at least. And never go overloaded ever, for pretty obvious reasons, right? But yeah, I'm going to be running this. It's really solid, gives you more HP, more stamina, and more equip load. You know, very solid pick, very solid pick. And this fourth one, again, you could put this in there, which I actually will. Right, the fourth one I always consider a flex slot. This is your versatility slot, essentially. You can put whatever you want in here, right? And in a minute, I'm going to go over some of the common talismans I see, which I don't think are very good or worth running, but that'll be in a minute, right? So, I always run kind of a miscellaneous talisman. So, for example, that would be the Bull Goat's talisman. 2 damage talismans, usually, unless I'm like, I really need equip load. Then I'd run the Jar Arsenal, which is very solid, by the way. It's just good for hitting thresholds. It's just really good for that. So if you're already struggling with that, this is a good option. And I've seen people just like run just the Arsenal Charm +1. I don't know why you wouldn't just run this, but maybe if you don't have it and this is working, by all means, I guess it's fine. But anyway, this is a really good option. I usually run 2 damage talismans, a versatility talisman, which is aka your 4th slot or your flex slot, whatever you want to call it, and a miscellaneous talisman, which is usually Bull Goats for me, or like something that's just like super nice and easy to use. Maybe if it's more stamina, or like Crimson Seed's quite solid. This isn't as solid, but it's sort of fine. Or if it's like a maybe something like this, but I'd consider these more damage talismans. Of course, you can alter it to your build. If you don't need to run this, then you can swap that out for a 3rd damage talisman, and you do a lot of damage. But for the sake of this video, I'll be running that. My 2nd talisman, it depends on your build, right? If you're two-handing, it's kind of a no-brainer to pick this. It's crazy strong. You're doing lots of heavy attacks, most notably things like, I guess you could say the Zweihander kind of benefits from this, in a sense. Anything you're doing lots and lots of charged heavy attacks, this is quite solid. I don't run it that often. It's not that good for a lot of the weapons I use, but it's certainly not horrible. You can run this if you're power stancing. Often this is a good pick, especially with like dual straight swords, dual twin blades, dual curved swords. All of those are really good jumping attack options. Same with like, I guess you could say halberds, scythes, heavy thrusting swords, things like that is a very solid option. If you're running a bow, you can run any of these. If you're running a shield, you can run any of these. Although, quick note, Great Shield Talisman is not worth running if you have a Great Shield. Okay, because it's a very minimal... It's typical because it's a Great Shield Talisman. It's a very, very minimal buff to your guard boost. I always recommend, if you're running a Great Shield in particular, this is really good on medium shields. But if you're running a Great Shield, I always recommend the Pearl Shield Talisman, because this is going to be more beneficial than like the 1 or 2 extra guard boosts this will give you. So just a quick heads up. Obviously you can run any of these if you're a caster. If you if you need memory slots, this is fine, I guess. These are fine. This is better than this, but still viable. Just be careful because it does lower your damage negation. This is good if you're running a shout build. If your skills are expensive, this is good. This is good for obvious reasons. It's just really solid. If your skill or spells if you're running both, can be charged, this is good. This is really niche, but it can be really good. It's particularly strong with katanas, with unsheath, and Renala's twin blades. I know there's other stances like overhead stance on the great katanas and what's it called? Oh my god, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's just called stance. It must be. Square off, that's it. They're both stances, but they're not as strong in PvP. They're a bit slow. If you're using magma again, use this. If you're using that, use that. It's pretty obvious what you should do, really. If you have this, never run this at the same time. Well, because you can't. And try to avoid running both of these if you can. Obviously, if you're using status, match corresponding status, and all that good stuff. This sounds really good. Don't really recommend it unless you're really low and you're using something like a twin blade. This is probably alright, but for like a general build, especially for like colossal swords and stuff, don't recommend using it. These are fine, I guess. These are better to what's called hard swap on instead of like having on permanently. But hard swapping is where you go into inventory and actually swap it out. But yeah, for the sake of this video, I'm going to run the two-handed sword talisman. It's a very solid boost, and I will be two-handing this weapon in this build, so it is beneficial to me. But yeah, those are my talismans. Of course, yours are going to look different, but just try and see what you like. See, you'll have a feel of what you need if you want to be a bit tankier and stuff. Oops. And I'm gonna, because this section's already quite long, I'm gonna just speed run some of the bad talismans that I don't recommend. So none of the source seals are good. The damage they make you take is just absurd. Like 10 points off of my physical for like 20 levels that might not even benefit me. Not worth it. Never use this ever. Like, really. Even in like normal game, I don't recommend it. Unless you're like a low level. Past like level 60, I recommend getting rid of this. Again, you can use these. These aren't as bad because they just give you 5 of 1 stats. Pretty solid, but never use this to just up your damage. There's almost always a better option. You can use these to meet stat requirements. I'm not against it. There's definitely worse you could do, but yeah, just don't do this just to have more stat and a damage stat. It's just not worth it. You're probably better off using something else. The biggest misconception I see a lot is people using this, right? You see the number, you see 44, you huzzah, oh my god, what have I done? You huzzah, you see the big number, you think it'll be so tanky, but in PvP, it is near enough useless. It's like a 5% buff, I think. It's really sad. Can't recommend. It's a waste of a slot. You're almost always better off with something else. Same with these. Cannot recommend these. Again, just kind of a waste of a slot. There's almost always a better option. If you're particularly struggling with a certain status in evasion, I guess you could swap on this. Again, with these, I don't recommend it unless you're particularly struggling. You can temporarily swap this on. But again, don't recommend it. All of these are fine, I guess. Just I recommend you stay away from the Twin Blade Talisman, the Lance Talisman, and the Curved Sword Talisman, because guard counters are very slow and reactable. This is almost never going to happen, and you can't ride a horse, so there's 0 point, right? You're just wasting a slot. And a couple more like big no-nos are Scorpion Charms. I don't like, they look so tempting because their buff is so good. It's not worth it. The damage they make you take is unreal, and it is 99.99999% of the time not worth it, right? Like I said, you're almost always better off with another option, right? So just keep that in mind. These are fine. The only really good one is the Feather Talisman, because backsteps are kind of meta now, because it gives you iframes on backsteps. If you've ever played Dark Souls 2, it feels a bit more different than that, but yeah, backsteps on iframes on backsteps. Sorry. And obviously don't run like the Crusade Talisman, the Runes Talisman, or anything to do with killing enemies, or Blade of Mercy. It's very useless, right? Because if you hit a crit, they're either going to die or going to be very low. Okay, so it's not really worth running. And just never run any of these down here ever. This is just a very dumb idea. Like, look at I don't see why you'd ever run this. It's just, I guess you could run Creeper's Vial if you're going for a weird invasion stealth build, but I just don't recommend it. But everything else almost is completely viable and absolutely fine. So just yeah, choose what you like. Like I said, you can like use all of these. All of these are good. Just don't use the soul seals. Try and avoid using these for damage, etc., etc. So yeah, that'll be it for talismans, and we'll move on to the next section. Right, so these are the stats from my build. We are running 60 vigor, 10 mind, 36 endurance, 15 strength, 80 dexterity, and 12 faith. Okay, so faith is the outlier. It's so I can use some of my other weapons, like the Firelight's Greatsword, most notably. I think there's a couple others in there, but that's like the main one, right? And a peculiar thing with stats, right, is that notice how like I can't wield my weapon, right? That's because I'm making the most of my levels and setting my strength as low as it can, while still being able to wield my weapon. So notice how I'm at 19. Like I can't wield it. There's an X on it. It's gonna do no damage, and it's just I can't use it, right? Like there's no damage. But when I two-hand it, it works. Because strength, when you two-hand something, gives you 50% more strength. So 50% of 15 is like 7, so I'll have 21 effective strength. My endurance is as low as I can go, well, I'll be still being a med load. You want as the bare minimum you need to be whatever load you want, right? And I ended up putting this on instead of this. I ended up changing it up, mainly because that bonus equip load, as you can see. But I just felt like maybe that extra HP might have been a bit more helpful, and the extra stamina kind of makes up for the loss of this. So that was kind of my thought process behind that. But yeah, when it comes to your vigor, I cannot stress this enough. So many people make the mistake of cheaping out on vigor. It it's your priority stat, right? At 125, you could potentially get away with 40, but I don't recommend it. Always, and I mean always, get 60 vigor. No more, no less. Always 60. No matter your build, always get 60. It's really important, right? It's one of the most important stats. It is the most important stat of your build, right? Because you see so many people and they show their build and they have like 30 vigor and they have like 800 health and they just get one bang by every single heavy weapon ever. So I cannot stress this enough. Please level your vigor. It's so important, right? Mind is only at 10 because this is not a caster build. I don't intend to cast a lot of spells. It's only for my Ash of War, which is not too expensive anyway. I can use it 7 times, so it's not too bad. And dexterity is my main damage stat. Scales with C there, so yeah, my dexterity is at 80, which is what I recommend, right? And in case you don't know, apart from, I think Arcane is the only outlier. The soft cap for all the other stats is 60, right? 60 is where you start to lose a little bit each level, so it's not as beneficial to level it up as much. But I still recommend going to 80, which is the hard cap, right? The reason I go to 80 is because after that, it gives me like 2 AR per level or something really minuscule like that. But it also means that I'm getting the most out of my level points and the most out of my damage, while still not being detrimental to the rest of my stats. Sure, I could pump it to 99, but there's not much point because I wouldn't gain that much damage, and I'd be losing 19 stat points I could put in, I don't know, endurance or vigor or whatever. Intelligence and arcane I haven't leveled because I don't use weapons, I use them. But obviously, level your weapon, your stats according to what your weapon scales with. So yeah, just be mindful. And just yeah, just be mindful of what you level and how you level it. And I didn't use one, but I know online there are plenty of build planners for Elden Ring that you can use to plan out your build before you respec, so you don't accidentally mess something up. So it's really important. If you really don't want to mess it up, maybe you're low on larval tiers, or you'd rather just be safe about it, you can always just go online on like a mobile device or a laptop or whatever and just like quickly like just go on one of them, just type in like Elden Ring build planner and you can craft your build on there, pick your starter class and that, plan out your build completely and make sure it's all correct. Alright, because I know how annoying it is when you make a build and you just cheap out on it and you don't think about it and you mess it up and you got to respec again. It's really annoying. So if you'd rather do that, there's no harm. I do advise it, to be honest, because I've messed up builds one too many times. But yeah, other than that, I think your build's kind of set really. You've only got one thing left to do. I'm going to show you. And that is going to be your physic, right? Physic is really important. A big mistake I see a lot of people do with your physic is using, I mean, it's difficult because I was doing a setup, but using these to meet stat requirements. Don't do this, right? Don't ever do this. Because relying on a buff, especially in invasions, that you're not even guaranteed to get off, is the worst thing you could do, right? Never do this to meet requirements, okay? Unless you want to, I don't know, maybe you had to cheap out on 10 decks so you can meet your endurance requirement, then potentially you could consider it. But there are lots and lots of better options. Most notably being Opaline Hard Tier. This thing is so good. This thing is insane, actually. It is one of the most consistently good choices I can recommend in PvP. Like, without a doubt, this is a very solid pick. Like, you can't go wrong with this. All damage negation, like for 3 minutes by like 15%. It's not nerfed in PvP either, so it's actually really good. So I always run this personally. It's really solid. And there's some more options, right? There's deflecting, right? This is not that good in PvP. It is for the defensive side, but the whole idea is that you do a guard counter afterwards, and that's really not that good in PvP. But hey, it is a pretty solid option. Obviously, there's these. You know, if you, I don't know, if you're a mage, you can chuck this on and, you know, you'll do more magic damage for 3 minutes. So it's just that. This is useless in PvP. This is okay. Charge heavies are very iffy. You'll get a player who knows how to react and dodge every single one, but you'll get someone who falls for it every time. So it's a bit inconsistent. This is useless. It's alright. It sounds really good and it is really good, but it's not as beneficial as you might think. The only tier I can really actually advise against using is the healing ones, like all 5 of these. The stamina ones are not amazing, but they're better. This one's kind of worse than this one, so use the green burst one if you want the stamina one. But yeah, all 6 of these, just I would advise against them. And this. This is really bad for PvP, right? Because you find most pretty decent players have some kind of fan dagger in their quick bar, so they can pop these, right? Because it doesn't like you get hit by a fan dagger and the bubble's gone, the effect is gone, the damage it gives you is gone. It's not very good. In case you don't know what it does, it tanks. Basically, essentially, it takes a hit for you. You could take 5,000 damage and this would eat it and it'd be the best bubble of your life. Or you could drink this, get a dagger thrown at you, and it go immediately. So I don't recommend it at all. I think it's quite bad. But I guess if you want like a more spontaneous defense, it might be viable. Maybe I don't think it's really. This, however, this is good, right? This is really good. If you've got all the damage you want, your weapon AI is so high, you can just run this, right? This is a safety net. Whenever you get low, it will heal you. This is so good, right? You put this in there, right? And you take like a huge burst of damage, but it doesn't matter because this can save you from potentially a one shot. Actually, I don't know about a one shot. It can save you in a lot of situations. It's saving me in a lot of situations, that's for sure. So this is a very solid pick. But yeah, really do recommend this. This is really good, and so's this. This is good. All 4 of these are good. That's alright. That's good-ish. But yeah. And obviously, don't run the Ruptured Tears. I've seen people try to use this against me and they've never hit me. So, it's not very good. If you can get it to work, fair play, respect to you. But for the most part, I would advise against these. But yeah, I'm gonna run the bubbles here for this kind of build. But yeah, that is kind of the stats and the bubble tier for you. So it's just. Hey guys, that will be the end of this video for now. That is my complete, semi up to date PvP build creation guide, if that's what you want to call it. Basically a guide on how to make a PvP build. I hope you found it really helpful, and I hope you have some luck. You know, feel free to like at me or whatever on YouTube videos, and you know, if you made a build and you want to show me, I'm happy to for you to at me if you want me to see your build. And I'd really appreciate some feedback on the commentary. It's my first time ever like doing a voice recorded like video, so I'd like to see if you guys prefer it, or if you guys prefer the text on the screen, or maybe a hybrid or like something like that. It's my first time doing it, so I'm kind of new to this, so not really like pro at it yet. So sorry if it's a bit scuffed, but I've yeah, I've tried. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope you all have a wonderful day.